Hey guys, how's it going? Let me just make sure everything's working properly. But pretty interesting day in the market today. We got some questions coming up, so feel free to post some questions here on the comments. I just want to make sure everything's showing up on my end, so let me just give me a quick second. Just want to make sure everything's good. But let's see if I can pull up chat. If you guys can see me, feel free to post on the comments and let me know what's going on. Also, if you have any questions about the semiconductor market, feel free to just post today. So let me just see if I can. Let me view your channel. So let me just make sure everything's good. All right. Yep. So it seems like everything's good. So let me just, haven't been live streaming in quite a while, so it's definitely going to take some time. Volume. So you think the volume's too low, Leo? Let me check if I can get it a little bit higher on your end. Testing. Jose was telling people to buy Nvidia at 130. Don't forget that. Let me know the video. Post. I dare you to post a video where I say Nvidia 130 is a great buy. Let me know. Let me know where I said that. People are so extra. So definitely an interesting day today in the market, and we can see, I want to say probably a lot of Nvidia questions. I'm going to do an Nvidia video later today, but we did have some interesting news come out after hours. So there were two that I saw that were pretty interesting. The first one we saw was Nvidia does get subpoena in escalating antitrust probes. I haven't really read it too much, but we're gonna have to see what's happening here. And the second thing, which I was kind of worried a little bit, not worried, but kind of grabbed my attention at first, that AMD hired a former Nvidia VP to lead global AI strategies. And normally I would be worried about this if he was kind of like a lead scientist or kind of like a lead technologist for Nvidia. But I was kind of just looking through his LinkedIn real quick, being a stalker of this person that just joined AMD. And he's more in the sales side, and his kind of department here in AMD and Nvidia is to bring the sovereign AI, something we've discussed a lot in this channel. So at first I was kind of not worried, but it was like, hey, look, is AMD really taking some nice tech people from AMD, but it seems to be more of a sales and a manager side. So I'm not too worried about that either. But obviously we can see Nvidia was down roughly 10% today, 2% after hours. I do believe after hours it's because Nvidia got hit by that Department of Justice hit. And I believe we're going to learn more about it throughout the upcoming days. But let's see. Do the stocks will drop? Wolf King, appreciate it, right? I thought it was under 100, he'd be a buyer. So, I mean, I do believe right now there's a lot of growth in AI. I'm really enjoying it at these levels, but under 100 is definitely a great opportunity. I mean, obviously anything under 100 would be amazing. So obviously 80 would be good. So for me, in forms of Nvidia's stock price, if the stock price drops even more in the long term, I wouldn't be worried. In the short term, obviously a lot of volatility. So let's see. Is there any questions you guys have here for today's live stream? I really didn't have much planned. It was pretty much just looking at semiconductor stuff. And if you guys had any questions, earlier today I did do a video on some of the stocks that are pretty interesting outside of the AI space. I only panic if Nancy sells. Roas, I agree. Yeah. If Nancy sales is going to be pretty interesting. I feel like so much of the market follows that now, so that would also create some negative sense in sentiment towards the stock. But a lot of semiconductor stocks were down a nice amount. We can see Onto. So Onto, for those that are not familiar, is a company that deals with semiconductor equipment, was down roughly 12%. Air Test System was down 11%. NPWR was down 10%. NVMI, which is another semiconductor, was down 9%. So I believe right now there's a lot of semiconductor equipment plays that are looking interesting. I think right now I think right now semiconductor equipments are probably some of the best plays. And the ones with the smaller caps, something like Camtech, something like Onto, something like NVMI. So, Jose, what is your year-end price target best guess? If I was to, if I was to guess on Nvidia, I would say somewhere around maybe. I'm guessing, right? I never played the price target game, but if I was to guess, it'll be somewhere around 140 to 150 for Nvidia by the end of the year, or somewhere around there. Now, let's take a closer look at Nvidia in forms of forward PE ratio. I think someone was mentioning it. Forward 1 year, which is pretty much a year and a half from now, we're sitting at 27. I mean, I think with the growth that we're going to see with Blackwell, with the growth we're seeing in AI, that's definitely going to, I think we're going to get probably closer to 25, 24. So compare it to other big tech players, it's not that expensive when looking at future guidance. Luis, do you think stocks will decrease in the upcoming days? I mean, obviously the market short term, so much news can happen, so much negativity, so volatility is always a thing. When we see dips like this, I wouldn't be one to use all my money at once and buy the dip. I would usually just buy a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and just kind of increase my dollar cost averaging. So that would be for Nvidia. For the for just in general, right? Just if stocks continue to drop, I wouldn't put all money at once because the market can give us more opportunities in the future. And let's see, what about the subpoenas that they announced? That's the thing that I'm gotta read a little bit more about. So let's see, the Department of Justice, which had previously delivered questionnaires to companies, is now sending legal binding requests that oblige recipients to provide information according to people familiar with this investigation. That takes the government a step closer to launching a formal complaint. So there's not still a formal complaint. Now they're just asking for legal binding documents to maybe see if they should go. Antitrust officials are concerned that Nvidia is making it harder to switch to other suppliers and penalize buyers that don't exclusively use its artificial intelligence chips, according to people who asked not to be identified because the discussions are private. So, I mean, I feel like if the Department of Justice is doing this, then maybe they should go with companies like Apple and all these other players that have such a sticky moat. I've done, I think, videos on this before. I think Nvidia isn't really doing anything illegal. I think Nvidia just has such a huge lead in forms of hardware, in forms of software, that it really seems like it's hard for other companies to change. But I don't think it's going to be... I mean, obviously, I can't give a definite answer, but based on the technology that Nvidia has, I think right now it's just the strength of its product, the strength of its software, the strength of its infrastructure, the strength of its continuous development that makes it hard for other players to send out. The only one I personally would be worried about, and I don't know if worried about, would be that Nvidia might be kind of penalizing buyers that don't exclusively use its artificial intelligence chips. So that's going to be interesting to be able to see how that works. But if Nvidia, if someone is saying, hey, look, we're just going to buy your H100, but we're not going to buy H200s or the B200, and Nvidia says, hey, okay, then we'll put you on the bottom of the list. I don't know if that's illegal or not, if they're still providing them with the solution. So I think that's the only one that's going to be tricky if true. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so I wouldn't know if that's legal or illegal, if they're still providing them with the solution. NYC, was I surprised with the 1 cent dividend on Nvidia? I mean, I think before it was 10 cents, so I'm not surprised. I don't know why Nvidia kind of does this. They should just continue to buy back shares instead. I always found it pretty weird that they had a very low dividend yield on their stock. Might as well not do it. No. Legal issues are expected to be with a company this size. It'll take months, if not years, for the Department of Justice to do any real damage. And I'm gonna, unfortunately, right, any real damage is not gonna be any real damage. It's probably going to be a fine. And this is not an Nvidia boat, but unfortunately, that's how it's gonna be. Where usually big companies, if they do get hit with some fine or something, it's probably something that they can just write off with the amount of cash that they've been seeing. Nabil, voice too low. So it's pretty interesting. I get some reports that the voice is low and others that the voice is fine. Let me know in the comments. I'm just going to put a poll. Let's do a poll. Voice. Low. Okay. So let's start that poll. Now, let's see. Appreciate the feedback. Definitely with dollar cost average and buy stocks during the dip in waves. Yeah, so that's how I normally would do it, Luis. Luis. I would just do dollar cost averaging. I think for Nvidia, because it's my number one position, I personally wouldn't really get too much until like 100s. And because it's such a big position in my portfolio, I tend to probably go more in the options route. But it's pretty tricky for me to kind of discuss that right here. One I really do enjoy, and obviously if you're an Nvidia bull, you might hate me for saying this, but AMD, I think AMD at these levels definitely looks attractive. Another player I do believe is looking pretty good is Marvell. Marvell, anything in the 68s and below looks attractive right now. I mean, dollar cost average. The other one is Broadcom. Broadcom is reporting earnings, I believe, tomorrow or Thursday. Broadcom in the 140s. It's not impossible. I mean, we hit around those levels around Tuesday, August 6th. I think that's a great opportunity for Broadcom. So a lot of the stocks, my buying opportunity where I would buy would be the lows that we saw on August 7th, on August 6th, on August 8th, or whatever. So if we get those price down low, that's when I think I would put a little bit more than normal of money into my accounts. So that for me would be where I would really enjoy buying more dips in chips. Paulie, what's going on, Paulie? Have you looked at let me see. Have you looked at, what was the company here? I missed you, Paulie. NVTS. I'm not too familiar. Maybe I might have heard it. Navitas Semiconductor. No, small company, 473 million. Not one I'm too familiar with. Let me know, Paulie, what your thoughts are and what they majorly hit. So let's actually look at it real quick. So this is a small microcap company of 473. So AI, it seems like they provide products. GaN fast power ACs. So gallium nitride solutions. Okay. So this seems to be the next wave right now in the automotive and power market. We're seeing kind of this silicon carbide and gallium nitride space. So it seems like Navitas is hitting that gallium nitride space, which obviously can be strong for power semiconductor solutions. So things like, especially now where we're seeing heavy loads on data centers, on racks, this is one that can, if they provide those types of solutions, can benefit from it. But unfortunately, it's not one I'm too familiar with. Let's see, what else do we have? So, okay, 74% say it's okay, 26% say it's not. So that's a pretty large difference there. So what else do we have? Jose, are you worried about I think we just talked about that. Not too worried about that. Voice is fine. If you look at NVIDIA's ecosystem, NVIDIA, TSM, and Supermicro, they all move in the same way. Is that because they're all part of the same ecosystem? In theory, yes. I mean, NVIDIA is the big player in the semiconductor space. Then you have TSM, which obviously benefits from AI chips. So the market kind of sees this reaction of, hey, look, negative NVIDIA, negative semiconductor, negative TSM. Then Supermicro kind of correlates within the AI server space. So normally, if NVIDIA or any major semiconductor company goes down, the rest of the market goes down. And I think it would be the same if another big player like TSM, let's say TSM went down due to some bad news, the rest of the semiconductor space would go down. The less important the company is, the less reaction the rest of the market is going to go. For example, if Intel drops 20-30%, I don't think most of the semiconductor market would care because it's Intel, right? AMD should drop back to 120 at least. You think so, Michael? I mean, I think AMD 130s. Obviously, I'm not saying catch the bottom. I would catch the bottom, but I think at 130 in the long-term results gives me some great buying opportunities. Alex, when are they going to buy back? Is it all at once or is it stretched out? How much would that affect the stock? So, Alex, it seems like they didn't have a real promising results. They just said, hey, we have $50 billion. We don't know when we're gonna buy back. And this is, I'm guessing, in regards to Nvidia. Last quarter, I think they bought about $7 billion. I mean, 7 billion compared to a market cap of $3 trillion. I don't know why I was gonna say 7 trillion. Maybe I'm just foreshadowing the future of Nvidia right now. But $7 billion in a world of a $3 trillion market cap is not really gonna move the stock, or really do much. So not too crazy there. CNBC ad on the front page. Wow, not sure where we saw CNBC page ad. Do you have a position in Broadcom? Jutes? Let's go with Jutes. No, I do not have a position in Broadcom. If I was, like I mentioned, I think Broadcom is definitely a great play. I really am invested more in Marvell right now, but Broadcom is definitely one that can definitely benefit in the AI space, especially since there are some rumors. It's not true right now, or we haven't gotten it confirmed, but Broadcom is supposedly building the AI chips for OpenAI. So, I mean, that's definitely going to be a big customer, and Broadcom already has other customers in their custom solution. So Broadcom is definitely a big player here in the custom ASIC market. And the ASIC market, in my opinion, is definitely a nice niche market within the AI server space. El Chingon. Let's see, what else is it? Will you say dollar? Are you dividing your money 20, 30 or more events? Leo, I don't know if I actually divide it in some real results. I tend to think that I would divide it around 10. So around 10 breaks points, if that makes sense. But luckily for me, I do have a nice amount of cash in the bank. So if I ever do see these, I just take X amount, nothing like that would take the full bank account, but enough that I know, hey, look, I can probably do this about 7-8 more times if needed. So that's just how I would do it, Leo. Yeah, Leo, and I think that's so different, right? That's the great thing about investment. There's so much different personal lifestyle in personal finance, right? Everybody is different. So for me, I definitely have times where I get a good bulk of income via YouTube doing fine, via some of my other hustles doing fine, where I'm able to throw a nice amount of funds in the market. And there's other times where I just unfortunately can't do too much in it. So let's see, Digo. Blackwell sales will start to show in the next quarter earnings, but not fully show the maximum amount until 2 quarters from now. I mean, Blackwell, I think is going to be a revolutionary product for Nvidia. I think Wall Street is going to be underestimating what Blackwell can do once it's in full production. If that $4 billion Blackwell revenue had been on this last earnings, would the stock be up to date? I think so, Super. I mean, $4 billion in Blackwell this quarter would have completely destroyed expectations. So yeah, I think if a $4 billion in Blackwell revenue would have been there, it would have been amazing for the stock. Digo, Broadcom financials and Nvidia have the best stats of all chips. You think so? Even with I haven't really seen too much of Broadcom's, and let's look at it. Broadcom's financials. So let's see, Broadcom, AVGO, cash and short-term investments. We got long-term debt, quarterly, and we also have CFO, cash flow from operations in trailing 12 months. See, I think Broadcom in forms of financials, it's not as strong because of that heavy long-term debt with all these crazy acquisitions and VMware that it just did. I mean, $73 billion in long-term debt. Obviously, the company makes plenty of cash in cash from operations and has a nice amount of cash in short-term investment. But when you compare that to our behemoth of Nvidia with $34 billion in cash and short-term investments, $8 billion in total long-term debt, and look at that, $48 billion in cash and short-term cash from operations in trailing 12 months. So I personally believe Nvidia is one of the best in forms of balance sheets right now. Another one that I don't think is bad is AMD. AMD is actually pretty good in its balance sheet. I mean, cash and short-term investments of $5 billion, total long-term debt of $1 billion, and cash flow from operations of $1 billion. So AMD and Nvidia are some of the big players right now. Let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Let's see. Do you know about the company Microtech? It has grown a lot in the past year, but I don't see much coverage on YouTube. BBs, I don't really follow it too much. I mean, I don't even follow it at all. I don't know. Um, I don't know any of those. I think that there are some sales that didn't happen last quarter because we were waiting for B100. I think we'll see H200 increase since the passive air-cooled chips have slipped 6 9 months. And you know what? I think the H200, I didn't know. Let me see. Let me show you guys here. So I didn't know how strong the H200 really was versus the H100, and these are some recent results from the benchmarks of AI inferencing. And the H200 liquid cooled, which is this 1000 watt, is so much better than the H100 and the MI300. So I believe the H200 is going to feel a lot of appetite between now and Blackwell. It seems like the H200 liquid cooling is going to be pretty strong. And we heard from Supermicro, if you remember their earnings call, they mentioned that they are seeing a nice growth in the H200 liquid cooling market. And now I see why. This definitely seems to be way better performer than the H100 and the MI300. Man, this guy is, I'm just going to block him, but it's crazy how you have someone that has nothing better to do in life and just spam, right? I mean, I hope this person doesn't have an investment account because they definitely need better time doing some other stuff. So let's see what else. At what level would you buy in SMH? Earth Alliance, to be honest, SMH, which for those that are not familiar, is the semiconductor ETF, SMH stock. SMH is one that I pretty much dollar cost average on a weekly basis in most of my accounts, and so most people I know probably dollar cost average into the SPY or to the Qs on a weekly or whenever they get paid. The one I'm always putting money into is SMH because I think this is probably my favorite form of basket investing. So yeah. Which was the last company you had up a few minutes ago, Michael? Which are you talking in forms of fundamentals on their website? We were talking, here was AMD with cash and short-term investments. We were then looking at Nvidia as well, which had crazy amount of cash flow from operations in trailing 12 months. We were then looking at Broadcom. And if you were talking about an individual company, I forget the name, but it should be in the chat above. I think ARM Holdings is a better play. Mohin, instead of what? Instead of Nvidia or in forms of better play for what? To be honest, you're gonna hate me here. I think ARM is a stock that can definitely benefit, right? I mean, they provide the architecture for all these CPUs that are out there right now, from Amazon's Graviton, from Microsoft's Cobalt, their CPU, Google's other solutions as well, the Axion, I believe they're called. So ARM is definitely benefiting from the AI space. But if one thing I'm not too happy about in forms of ARM, it's gonna be its valuation. I think ARM is not growing fast enough to meet these valuations. And right now, the only thing really helping it is kind of the low floats of shares that are out there because ARM and SoftBank owns a good portion of it. So for me, this is one that obviously has growth opportunities, and if you're an investor, best of luck to you. It's one that I personally wouldn't put money into myself just because I believe there's too much risk based to the reward on current valuations. I mean, like you mentioned, right? Their ARM architecture is used in all the phones from Snapdragon, from Apple. We saw Qualcomm that just recently announced their AI PC, the Snapdragon X Elite, which uses ARM Holdings, and like I mentioned, all those other CPU players from Nvidia's great CPU as well. But for me, the valuation is one of the things I'm very, very hesitant about. And MG, I've never heard about the incident of the CEO barricading himself in the office. That's definitely an interesting one for sure. So Anthony, when am I buying more dip here on Nvidia? For me, I think for Nvidia, anything below 100, anything below 100, it's either going to be forms of shares or some form of bullish option play. It was ARM China. Jason, did you see XAA Colossus is now online with 100,000 H100 and Musk is looking to procure 50,000 H200 liquid cool to augment the Colossus supercomputer even further? Yeah, I mean, XAI, in my opinion, is moving in such a rapid pace. I think, unfortunately, OpenAI and Sam is not as vocal. Sam Altman and the OpenAI team is not as vocal on forms of their data center solution. So I'm curious to see what OpenAI is building right now. I mean, if XAI is building 100,000 H100 and 50,000 H200, I can only guess what some of these big players are building, like OpenAI, right? So I think OpenAI is going to be one of those first to really build one of those million cluster GPUs. But I could be hopeful, right? Maybe not real there, but just my overall thoughts on how OpenAI could probably be one of the biggest customer, either via Microsoft or OpenAI itself. So are you guys looking at any semiconductor stocks right now outside of Nvidia? And later today, I'm going to release an Nvidia episode. Like I mentioned, I really just wanted to come on today to kind of discuss any semiconductor stocks you guys want, any questions. I mean, Intel, right? Intel's another interesting one. Intel recently got hit with the reports that they're going to sell off. That one is... That one's going to be... and that was down 8%, right? I do believe recently it was down a nice amount after there were reports that it was going to sell some parts of its foundries. I don't know. I think Intel should sell every part of its business except its core product, and I don't think it should sell its foundry business. I think its foundry business is it's going to be the easiest it can right now thanks to the government, but maybe it should cancel some plans, like for example, Germany. I think Intel, if I may be honest, Intel should not focus in any factories outside of the United States and should just make itself the United States foundry player. And I think that alone will make this a very, very interesting stock. But right now we can see $85 billion market cap. It's crazy how Intel has how low Intel has done. What about Sify Technologies? Moheen, this is why I enjoy these live streams. This one that I never really know about. Is that a public company, Sify stock? Technology. So they are in Indian information and communication technology, providing telecom service, data centers. Let's see what they do. Let's decline. Co-locations, cloud. So it seems like they're more like leverage data center solutions. Clouding servers. So our service deliver integrated value through asset service and partnerships model. Super small market cap. Well, I mean, this is definitely, I don't know, up 100% today. Usually penny stocks like these are not ones I normally would play. I should have looked at the market cap. Definitely not something I normally would play. Heavy risk, especially after going up 100% in one day. Having your headquarters in India, I would prefer, obviously, headquarters in the United States. Super wet. I was going to say super wetty, but super wordy. Thoughts on AMAT and Lam Research? If I may be honest, I personally would stay away from Applied Materials right now. Applied Materials has gotten hit by a lot of SEC issues, probes of kind of them going through. See, we can see May 28th, U.S. government extends investigation into Applied Materials for alleged China sanction breach. And I've seen a lot of more reports like this. Some of the people that I follow that are big in the semiconductor space have also really kind of shown some worried about Applied Materials. And for that reason, no matter the stock price, I wouldn't touch Applied Materials. That doesn't mean the stock is going to go down, but I think there's plenty of other opportunities for me not to have that added risk. Now, Lam Research, let's take a closer look at Lam Research. Lam Research year to date is pretty much up only 2%. From its year to date high, the stock is down roughly 32%. Now Lam Research, this one's looking interesting if I may be honest. So Lam Research, I want to look at PE ratio forward 21, PE ratio forward 1 year. I mean, Lam Research, for those that are not familiar, is a semiconductor equipment and one that focuses a nice amount in the memory side, right? In the memory side. And right now, we are seeing this huge growth in the memory market because of things like HBM. HBM is just like an offset of DRAM, which needs a lot more, not DRAM, damn, I'm misplacing the words right now, but just needs more iterations of it. So I think Lam Research is one that looks pretty attractive at these levels and one I'm going to add on my watch list for sure. I didn't think it pulled back that much. So Lam Research is definitely one I'm liking. If out of all the big ones right now, Lam Research, I think looks pretty good here compared to maybe some of the other players. Let me see. Has ASML dropped a lot too? ASML down 23%. I think Lam Research, now this is one. Thank you. Super. Lam Research is one I'm going to keep a closer eye on for sure. So I appreciate you bring that up. Let's see. Will Avco drop or rally after earnings? Worth taking the risk to buy the dip before earnings? Anthony, I mean, that's always the question that we'd love to have the answer to, because if we knew the answer, we would just play options in the right directions and be fine. I mean, I think Broadcom, I really would like to dip. I'm only going to touch Broadcom if it enters kind of those levels that we saw in early August, just because I already have such a huge exposure into the AI space. It's not like I need more exposure, right? I'm only going to, I luckily, because of my huge exposure into the AI space, I have the luxury of being very selective of when I would enter a stock in that market. So Broadcom is one that I would like to enter, but I would really love it if it hit those 140 levels. We can see here on August 7th, this was around those levels. So for me, that's where I would enter Broadcom. But obviously, this stock after earnings can just fly and never touch those levels again. So I guess it all depends on how much exposure you have into the AI space and how much you really want to get into the stock. Raymond, can't agree more on the Department of Justice topic. Hopefully I made a great discussion there. J42, what about ADI? The CEO said that 2025 would be a good year, good bookings visibility, and he talked up the growth in human robotics. So, I mean, obviously ADI, for those that are not familiar, is a company that provides analog solutions. Analog solutions are very, and power solutions are pretty strong in forms like automotive, robotics, industry, IoT solutions as well. But this is a market that has been kind of down. I'm pretty sure if we look at ADI, first let's look at PE ratio. ADI right now is looking at 28 forward, maybe a little, based on current numbers, maybe a little bit expensive. But again, I don't follow the stock. So this is why it's important to understand the stock and see the growth potential, because these PE ratios are based on analyst expectations. But if you believe that this one is going to completely outperform expectations, then you know your PE ratios are actually going to be much lower than this. But based on what I'm seeing right now, it's looking a little bit expensive. I mean, why would I want to pay forward 1 year 28 on analog devices when I can pretty much pay that same price for AMD, right? I think AMD is actually cheaper. AMD's forward 1 year sitting at 25. So that's how I like to see things. Hey, what do I just want to buy stocks to just buy stocks, or am I going to be very, very selective in what I'm buying? So that's where my thought would be like, hey, with this PE ratio, wouldn't I just enjoy buying something else instead? But ADI definitely has growth opportunities from those other markets that you mentioned. I just wanted to look at revenue growth this most recent quarter. This most recent quarter was it was down 24%. So, I mean, the other thing is this is kind of in a down market, it seems. And usually that tends to be some of the nice times and opportunities to buy a lot of these plays. For me, in forms of semiconductor market, I think right now the better opportunities are in the automotive space and the equipment space. Those are ones that haven't risen up too much like the AI markets, but could definitely see growth opportunities in the future. I'm not too familiar. I don't follow the analog too much to kind of say that right now. On AMD, is that the best buy cheapest stock with the most upside. I mean, I don't know if AMD is the best buy, cheapest stock with the most upside. I think for me, AMD provides the best, I wouldn't say safest in the AI market, but AMD is very diversified in forms of revenue that it's not being led by the AI space. So AMD has the opportunity to grow in its server CPU, in its consumer CPU, the embedded market, and obviously with the MI300. So I don't believe AMD is going to be the next Nvidia, but I do believe it has opportunity to growth, and I like its valuation right now. So those are my thoughts on AMD and why I enjoy it. I believe it gives me the best growth potential, and it also gives me kind of like the safest play out of all the other growth stocks out there. Robert William, what's going on, Robert? Lam Research has a 10-to-1 stock split right in October. That would, I mean, Lam Research is definitely looking attractive right now. What are your thoughts with the election and how it will affect this Nvidia? I mean, elections will be a wild year for Nvidia and for the overall stock market, in my opinion. So I think that's why if you're worried about your investment in the short term of things, it's never smart to play it in growth stocks, especially ones like Nvidia that have huge volatile swings from day to day. Let's see, what else do we have? So thoughts on TSM or Micron right now. So I've always, Brian, I've always mentioned this. TSM is not a stock that I would personally buy. The main reason is TSM is such a big company that it pretty much moves with the semiconductor market. If you were to tell me, Jose, would you rather buy TSM right now or a semiconductor ETF? I think I would put the semiconductor ETF every single time. The main reason is TSM pretty much runs the semiconductor market. So if TSM does good, the semiconductor market does good. And historically, if you look at values, let's look at TSM here and SMH, and let's kind of look at total returns. So total returns includes dividends and includes any fees. Normalized, we can see how similar they have been in the past 5 years. So why would I put stress in an individual company and always be worried about TSM and kind of other issues where I could just invest in the semiconductor ETF and have a little bit more diversified position? Overall, TSM bullish in the market, bullish in the semiconductor space, but I would rather go with the semiconductor than invest on TSM individually. Now, the other one you mentioned is Micron. I think Micron now, again, the memory market is very competitive with pricing. When inventory gets crazy high, you're going to see a crazy pricing war. Right now, Micron at 80 that low levels, though, is, in my opinion, not bad. I mean, I was just looking at the chart for Micron. Normally, I don't really look at my charts in my main videos because I really look more at like fundamental and news. But I can see Micron at prices right here within the $85 price point where we're at right now, mid 80s, looks attractive, especially since they're seeing the growth opportunity in AI with HBM. They're working on HBM 3E right now with Nvidia. I believe they got that pass. They're also working on HBM4, which is going to be used in future products. So Micron is one that might be late in the game with the HBM market, but is moving in the right direction. They're increasing their capacity there. So Micron, I'd like it here for sure at these 85s. So those are my thoughts on there. But personally, I'm not buying Micron. I think, like I mentioned, I think I would rather invest more on AMD, on Marvell, but those are the ones I enjoy the most. What are your opinions about SK Hynix? So SK Hynix as a stock, no opinion, because I personally can't trade it. It's an international company, and the brokers I have can't trade SK Hynix. SK Hynix, though, is the leader right now in HBM. It's the main provider of Nvidia's chips. So SK Hynix for sure is the leader in this space. They're developing at a fast pace. They're even making great partnerships with TSMC to make sure that their products continue to develop at a fast pace. So in the HBM market, you have 3 players. Number 1, in my opinion, is SK Hynix. Number 2, but I think pretty far off from number 1, even though you're second place, I think they're still far off from number 1, is Micron Technologies. And number 3 would be Samsung in forms of the memory space. David, what do you think about Google's monopoly case? Could Nvidia face the same issue? I don't think Nvidia right now could face any real splitting up case. What would they split up? I mean, Nvidia's software is needed for its hardware solution. It's not like it's independent, but they can run independently. So I don't think there's going to be any split cases for Nvidia. I'm not too worried right now about the Department of Justice prying their nose in Nvidia. I think eventually they're going to find out, hey, look, Nvidia's products are just as good that customers don't want to switch. Sankos, do you think we bounce back tomorrow? Hey, I wish we do. But obviously the market, actually, no. If I may be honest, I wouldn't mind a little bit more dip to maybe buy some of the dip. Oh, sorry, I just dropped my key. I wouldn't buy. I wouldn't mind one more dip just so I can buy a little bit more of some semiconductor stocks. But if it does go green, then that'll be a-okay for me as well. Brian, SMH makes sense and okay, thank you. No, no problem, no problem. Lang, is Tesla still a safe buy? I mean, I don't know if I would ever say Tesla is a safe buy. I personally enjoy Tesla. It's one of my top positions. I think with the current downturns, it's back to my number 3, and AMD might be back to number 2. But Tesla, I mean, I think if you're buying Tesla right now, what I'm investing in Tesla, and let me just talk about my thesis. What I'm investing in Tesla right now is FSD in general. I think FSD is going to do amazing. Obviously, right now it's being held back by certain things, but the way it's progressing, I think is going to be great for not just the automotive market. That type of technology can also be used in other types of mobility products like robotics, aka Optimus, and anything else that moves and is a robot. So I think Tesla, I invest for it as an AI company. For that reason, I couldn't care. I don't really listen too much at its everyday price move because I don't care too much about its vehicle market. I care more about its AI market, which could be crazy, but that's just my thought process for Tesla. Do you think SMCI is a buy at current prices, or do you think it's too high? Now, I mean, I did a video on SMCI. I think earlier this morning or late last night. I forget when I did it. This is the time when you've got to pick a side. I mean, you don't have to pick a side. You can pick 3 options. You can say, hey, look, this stock is doing illegal stuff, shady stuff. I'm not going to touch it. I'm not going to buy it. And who cares? I think if you believe that the stock did nothing wrong, and there have been some reports or some evidence that show that there might not be anything wrong. We got the 10K filing on Friday that Supermicro in that 10K filing said, hey, look, we don't expect any material changes to our 10K or our 10Q report. So for them to say that, I think they're doubling down and saying that, hey, look, this is fake news. And today, Supermicro's CEO did send an email out to a lot of their customers, and they said, hey, look, these short reports, I mean, it talked about other aspects, but at the end, he did mention that, hey, look, these short reports are false, and we're going to discuss that in the upcoming quarters. So for me, I'm leaning that, hey, look, Supermicro is 60% okay, 40% wrong. I'm not going to say that, hey, look, I believe they're 100% right, because they do have history of shady business. But right now, with the AI space doing so amazing, I don't think they had a reason to do anything shady. The AI server space is real. We're seeing big companies spend a lot of money on AI servers. So I don't see why they would fudge things up. Now, if they did, then that's probably the dumbest CEO of all times. But if you believe that they did nothing wrong, this is definitely a great opportunity. I mean, in my previous video, we looked at PE ratios. Let's look at PE ratios of their competitors. It was, let's see, Dell Technologies, it was HPE, and it was Supermicro. For the first time, Supermicro is actually trading with these other players, where historically it has been trading at valuations so much higher. So, I mean, I think this is an opportunity if they are right, but we will have to wait and find out. Boop, 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 boop. Like I mentioned, 40-60, Luis or Lewis, 40-60. That's where I would put 60% that they haven't done anything wrong. But I would never, I don't think I can go higher than 60. Maybe even 45-55. Maybe 60 might be too high. Sanko's opinion on NVDL as a long term hold. I mean, leverage ETFs, horrible on days like today, right? So you're going to be able, you have, with NVDL, not long term hold. Exposures like that are never long term hold. It's more being able to know when to get out and when to get in, right? In the dips, you get in the huge rallies, you get out and you wait for the next dip. But as a long term hold, doesn't really make sense in my opinion. It's more of like a trade. Yo, Pomo, what about Tesla AI? Could they leverage outside of robotaxis? I mean, miniature robots, for example, let's say last minute deliveries with those little robots. If you have an amazing mapping system, if you have an amazing AI solution that can drive anywhere in forms of hotels, in forms of anything, right? I think there's a huge mobility market that they can license their AI solutions to. Zankos, again, I'm not too sure. Leverage numbers are not in my favor, in my best, in my case, but I wonder, unless there's an extra fee, if you held within the same amount of time as an Nvidia, in theory, shouldn't you have about the same returns as Nvidia? Am I thinking that wrong? If XAI brought enough chips, who buying? If XAI, I'm not sure who's buying. All right, guys, I probably have about Tori. I wish I knew the answer. But yeah, Sankos, I think for NVTL, it's one of those stocks that when you have a huge gain, anything leverage, you let go, sell some shares, and you just wait for the next dip. And usually, if you do that, I mean, I personally wouldn't do it, but let's say NVDL, best case, you buy the dip, you sell when it runs up. When it runs up and you sold, you buy the non-leverage version, you buy Nvidia. So if it does go down, you don't get hit as hard, but if it goes up, you're still riding the wave a little bit. But again, NVDL is not one that I touch. I personally go with more option spreads, and that's how I've been doing all really well this year. Outside of obviously holding some of these big AI players, but I enjoy doing spreads in options a lot better. Do you think chip is commodities? Long stir verse. Don't bring that negativity here. I mean, um, chips are not a commodity. It depends on the chip. Memory is a commodity. HBM right now, not a commodity. Maybe in a year or 2 years from now, could be a commodity. AI chips, not a commodity if you're the best of the best. Maybe if you are the worst of the worst, you might be a commodity. But chips are, if you're innovating your new technology, and new technology is needed for advancements in the world. Brian, can you teach me options? Not, I don't think I can teach that. I think options for most people is probably game over. It's probably the easiest way to lose money. When I first started investing, options was probably my biggest losses in all times. When I first started investing, I think I easily lost like 25, and this is when I was like a young, I'm 32 right now for those that are not familiar. Probably around 23, I was just starting investing. I did options and I pretty much blew out my account with like 25, 26,000 down. So now I play a whole different option game. Um, and like I said, it's something that I really wouldn't ever find comfortable discussing. There's definitely a lot of other YouTube channels that would do that, either easy, that would discuss that, but it's definitely not one I would talk about. But I'm happy, right? I'm happy I started investing earlier because that's when you make a lot of the mistakes. And obviously, 20, 25 G's back then seemed like a lot, but it still seems like a lot right now. I'm not rich or anything, but it wouldn't hurt as much now if I would do, maybe now if I was to do it with the amount of money I would do it, I would probably have lost like hundreds, right? So it's a different market. I'm happy I lost it when I was younger and didn't have too many worries in the world. opposed to now. So yeah, I did an Intel call, Dollar General put, and Nvidia call. Somehow I was wrong on all three this morning. Oh my goodness, it's crazy how the market always kicks you in the face. Love the iron core condors. To me, it's usually Leo. I usually just do put spreads. So either I short a put and then buy a put lower end. It's usually when I'm bullish. I never tend to do the other thing. So my main one is just put spreads. That's pretty much all I do. Nvidia was pushing robotics. Are you bullish in the robotic projects of some companies, Tesla, Amazon? Yes. I think robotics is definitely going to be a big market. I don't think the robotics market is going to come as quickly as many are discussing. I think many are expecting robots to be here in the next 2 years. I think technology like this is at least 5 years away. But I think the robotics market is going to be a great opportunity for Nvidia and a lot of these players like Tesla. I think for Tesla, Optimus is going to be a great market for them, and that's why I'm super excited about their AI push. Let's see, Real Life Police. Hello, Real Life Police. Thank you for your service. Thank you for these videos. Thank you for your service if you are actually a Real Life Police. Long, Intel bottom out already, right? I think so. I think Intel might have bottomed out already. I think 20. I mean, this is stock. Intel, it's crazy, right? Intel Max. Intel was sitting at these levels of $20 back in 1998. I mean, back in, let's see how fast, 1997? Yo, that's wild. Tell me that's not wild. 1997. I was 5 years old in 1997. Intel, imagine how mad I would have been if my parents were, imagine how mad I would have been if my parents would have invested in the stock market when I was 5 and they bought Intel, and I'd be like, oh, let me check out my returns, and I'm still at the same place in 5 years. I mean, same place 20, 27, 28 years ago. So it sucks. That definitely would be a crazy story. Yeah, I started in the market early. My parents got Intel in 1997 for me. Granny is watching. Do you think Intel stock is a value trap? BB's Intel stock a value trap. I think Intel has the potential with their manufacturing push. 100% potential with their manufacturing push. I think if that goes well, this is a stock that can benefit dramatically. I think Intel will be one of those players that the market cap of 85, if their manufacturing push does well, will look super cheap. This would be a company that could hit, in my opinion, 500 billion very, very quickly if the manufacturing push goes good. The manufacturing push, in my opinion, is going to take a lot of time, right? I mean, they have to showcase that their product is good, and then they have to get customers. So their real product is going to be what? Intel 20, I believe it's going to be, or Intel 18A. That's still a few quarters away. Then you still have to get customers. Then those customers need to order. They need to ramp up. They need to show the kind of production and performance of this chip. So it's going to take a long, long time for it to really show any real numbers. But if they show really good numbers, I think 85 billion is super cheap. Nice. AMD for under $2 back in 2008. Good. I actually got into AMD. AMD was one of my first stocks at around $5, $6, $7. If they change CEO like Starbucks, maybe they're soap. Maybe the Chipotle CEO should go to... Nah. I think Intel, I really do enjoy Pat. I think Pat is the best guy for the push right now. He's a big engineering guy. I just think, unfortunately, Intel was dealt with a bad hand that's going to take a long time. That no matter who's the CEO, it won't fix until time. Time is the only thing that will fix it. It's not who's the CEO or not. So I think Intel has an Intel time problem, not an Intel CEO problem. Kurt, will Supermicro still do a 10-for-1 stock on October 1st? I would hope so. I really would hope so. What's your view on Palantir? I mean, Palantir, you have obviously one of my good friends who enjoys Palantir a lot more. I come from, for those that are not familiar, and I probably say that a lot, I'm an electrical engineer. I used to work at some pretty cool defense contractors. I work for General Dynamics, and for me, Palantir, when I saw AIP, it really showcased to me that, hey, look, this company knows what they're doing with AI, and it can definitely change the overall national security market, and that's why I invested in AIP. I don't follow Palantir too much. I obviously listen to their earnings, but I think there's other channels out there, and you guys know who I'm talking about, that discuss Palantir a lot better. I don't mind holding Palantir now for the foreseeable future. If news comes out of Blackwell shipping has started, will Nvidia bounce back? Do you watch other YouTube stock guru? Any favorites? No, I don't watch. I just watch streams. I only watch streams, and I only watch one stream. I don't watch anybody else. My boy Amit, and that's it. I don't watch any YouTubers in finance. I mean, because at the end of the day, all I really care about is the semiconductor space. And I'm not going to lie, I don't believe there's anybody out there in YouTube that's doing semiconductor stock investing to where I can really, really learn from them. I look at other semiconductor tech people, right? So there's a lot of people that are providing semiconductor news and technological update at a very, very low level where it's more the technical aspects of it. My channel, I don't know if this is I'm doing correctly, but what I try to do is kind of break down semiconductor technology and break down the market and kind of put them together. So I don't think there's anyone out there that I would learn too much from. I'm not saying that all the people are bad. It's just that for me to improve my semiconductor knowledge, I prefer learning more the technical aspect opposed to the stock market aspect, if that makes sense. But again, no shots to any other FinTuber out there. I think everybody has their strength. Your books, is it on Amazon? Nope, it's just on on my store. And great time to plug. I do have a semiconductor ebook covering this quarter earnings. So make sure to check it out. Maybe I'll show you guys a preview of it. Let me see if I have it here. Ebook. This is an earlier version. Yeah, maybe not this one. Let me open up another one. Let me show you guys what I have in my computer. So that's not it. Why I keep opening the same one? So it's just this quarter two earnings ebook. I have a lot of different companies. And for each company, I discuss kind of like executive summary, headwinds, growth opportunities, key markets, competitive landscape, market segment, revenue shift, capital allocation, technological, additional investor relevant information. And I'm covering over 40 companies right now. I have one more update, but a lot of great information for me. If you want to do, the link is on the description. So thank you for allowing me to plug it. You can also use code YouTube for $10 off. Do you ever purchase Nvidia or others in overnight market? Nope, Leo, never do overnight market. I tend to just do market times just because I just enjoy. I don't like worrying too much about setting a limit or all this. Even if there was a crazy drop, I would just buy over the market times. Right time to buy Qualcomm, QCMM. Not sure QCMM, Adams, or Qualcomm. Qualcomm, I think Qualcomm is sitting at little attractive levels right now. Definitely a good time to dollar cost average. What do you think about Apple? They usually get into the trends later, and they've done pretty good so far. Could AI add a couple of trillions to its market cap? I don't know if it can add trillions to its market cap. I think AI can definitely maybe boost some AI sales. I just recently bought the new Google Pixel Pro, whatever, the new one that just came out, because it had AI solutions and I had a very old phone. So I think there's going to be a nice growth opportunity for the AI market, but I don't know if it would add trillions. How you have to think about it in a business. How will Apple benefit from AI? Will it sell $1 trillion? Will it sell billions and billions more of iPhones? I don't think so. It will definitely sell a few billion, but not crazy billions of more, right? So there's growth opportunity, but I don't think it's $1 trillion market growth opportunity for them. I think the market always knows. I think bigger players in the market know when things like this are happening. So guys, I do appreciate the support. I'm going to head out. I have to go record today's Nvidia daily episode. I'm probably going to cover some of the things I discussed here, but obviously in a shorter time frame. So thank you guys for the support. I'm going to try to do at least 2 to 3 live streams per week. I am a dad now, so it's a lot harder to do this, especially if I need to do a video. But I'm definitely going to try my hardest. If you can, I definitely appreciate the support. Make sure to hit the thumbs up, the subscribe button, and check out my free Substack. I release a lot of great articles every other day or so about the semiconductor market. So make sure to check out that free Substack. Leo, appreciate it. Yeah, being a dad is probably the greatest thing on earth. And what's more important to me is that I'm able to do this YouTube life. So I'm able to spend pretty much almost the whole day with my little one. So it's pretty much been a blessing, and thank you guys for the support, as it does mean so much that I'm able to do this, because now I get to spend so much more time with my little one and my family. So I appreciate it a lot. So thank you guys, and I'll see you hopefully tomorrow around 8:30 or maybe a little bit earlier. But I'll definitely let you guys know later. So take care, have a good day, and